Good afternoon. Will the commissioners be seated? I'd like to welcome each of you here to our workshop today. It is 1:00 p.m. and we will begin the workshop. And at this point, I will turn it over to our county administrator, Administrator Vince Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. As Chair said, this is your workshop today on human services and the CHSP process, the Community Human Services Partnership process. Clearly, this is a very important topic for the board, certainly human services in general and human services funding. It's certainly reflected in the board's historic commitment to this funding, even and especially in difficult times. The board has had an unwavering commitment to human services in our community and also to the continuous improvement of the CHSP process itself. I want to remind the board that the goal of the CHSP process itself is really very straightforward. It ensures that our limited human services funding is maximized to address the greatest number of needs that we have in the community. It's intended to help our agencies have a one-stop shop for funding when it comes to the city and the county, and to allow them to the greatest extent possible to use their time to deliver the critical services to the community and not take as much time as maybe they might otherwise on seeking dollars through multiple application processes. And the process itself also continuously identifies improvements. Every time we conduct a funding cycle through the CHSP process, we continuously identify improvements. The board may recall just very recently going to the 2-year cycle. You'll also recall recently the performance metrics that we've put in place and just now sort of have a baseline in place. And again, so that demonstrates certainly that commitment, and we have additional recommendations that are before you today that certainly reflect that continuous effort. I'm going to hand this over to Shinkton Lammy in just a moment to get us rolling. But I did want to mention at the outset, Commissioners, that obviously this is a workshop setting, so this is the opportunity for the board to sort of, roll up your sleeves and freely engage and ask questions about this, unlike I know in the commission, your commission meeting agendas where oftentimes you're sort of hurried to make decisions that are right before you. Yes, we've got recommendations for you which reflect a lot of previous board direction and a lot of incremental steps along the way, but we recognize that a lot of these come to a head oftentimes, and it's postured for you to make decisions. Having said that, the board may decide today that with one or two or three of the options that we have here that you may want to take more time, provide other direction to us on that, which is obviously all very good. We look forward to receiving whatever that direction is, because we got a couple of steps. We've got a ratification item. As this is a workshop, you always have a ratification item which follows this, which ratifies whatever action you take today. And we've got a meeting in January. So again, should the board wish to have additional information or wish to provide staff with additional direction, we can always bring that back in January in the form of an agenda item and have the board consider whatever else you'd like to do. So with that said, let me just go ahead and hand it over to Shinkton Lammy, and he's going to get us rolling.
All right. Thank you, Mr. County Administrator, and good afternoon, Commissioners. As you may recall, Commissioners, you requested this workshop to ensure that County is well positioned to respond to human services needs in the community, primarily through the Community Human Service Partnership, or CHSP. With this afternoon's workshop, We will provide a high-level presentation of the detailed report and proposals in your packet so that the bulk of your time can be reserved for any questions that you may have, as well as for board discussion and direction. All right. So, just an overview. This slide specifically shows what we'll be touching on today. So first, we'll touch on the county's historic and continued commitment to human services, as the county administrator mentioned. We'll provide an overview of CHSP, which is the county and city's joint program for funding human services, the process for funding human services programs through CHSP, and the recent performance metrics adopted to evaluate the effectiveness of the programs funded by CHSP. Then I'll take a moment to talk about the Children's Services Council. And this afternoon, I know we have a lot of our providers here, including our partners, including Sika Rose Green, who is the Executive Director of the Children's Services Council. And we'll talk about the very positive impact in investing and delivering human services for children, youth, and families in our community that CSC is doing, and what does that mean to the county's continued efforts and commitment to human services, as well as what it means for CHSP. That will naturally lead to several proposals that will better position the county in our efforts to address the human service needs in the community. And it will culminate with staff's recommendations that are in your workshops, and of course, as I mentioned, open up for any questions that you may have. But first, I have to begin by talking about the high emphasis and historical commitment the county has placed on human services. Annually, the county invests more than $10 million in human services, which equates to approximately 3% of our county budget. This significant level of investment supports homeless services, healthcare, housing, and other essential services that are critical to providing citizens the basic foundation to make their life better, especially, primarily, and specifically those in our community experiencing poverty. In addition to the annual investment in human services, the county also invested more than $40 million in response to the COVID-19 pandemic to provide direct services and support human service programs to the most vulnerable. Within the past 5 years, the county has entered into various memorandums of understanding and interlocal agreements with the City of Tallahassee, the United Way of the Big Bend, Children's Services Council of Leon County, the Housing Finance Authority of Leon County, the Big Bend Continuum of Care, all to better coordinate, collaborate, and maximize resources focused on improving the quality of life of the residents through human services. Commissioners, long story short, human services is not a program for Leon County, it is a priority. An important component of that priority has always been CHSP. So for more than 25 years, the county and city have partnered to plan, coordinate, and invest in the human services through CHSP. As the county administrator mentioned, the goal of the CHSP is to ensure that our limited human service dollars are maximized to address the unlimited needs in the community. Ensure that agencies have the most simplified one-stop process so that they can spend less time applying for funding and more time delivering critical services to the community. And finally, that we're continuously identifying and making improvements to CHSP as reflected, as the county administrator mentioned, in efforts where we've adopted a 2-year funding cycle, performance metrics, and some of the proposals that we're sharing today as part of this workshop. It's through CHSP we're funding human services programs delivered by local non-for-profits for housing, shelter, healthcare, legal services, food, life skill development, and other basic needs and essential services. For this current fiscal year, the county and city are jointly investing $5.6 million in CHSP that's been awarded to 50 agencies for a total of 82 programs across 11 human service categories that I'll touch on more later. So how does the CHSP process work, the funding process? Well, for the past several years now, as I've mentioned, the CHSP has operated under a 2-year funding cycle. This was a request that was made by our agencies, and it provides an opportunity of predictability and reduces the amount of times they have to continuously be applying for funding. So the board establishes the overall funding level for CHSP for the county, and we bring that to the board regularly, annually during the springtime. Even though it's a 2-year funding cycle, but as part of the budget process, we always bring it annually for the board's approval. The overall funding for CHSP provided by the county and city respectively are allocated to the 11 human service categories presented in your workshop item that ranges from children's services to homeless services. It's through the categories human service programs are funded to provide direct services to citizens of Leon County. We have citizen review teams comprised of residents that represent a cross-section of our community for each category that review applications, reports, and financials of the agencies and programs to make recommendations on funding, which ultimately are considered and approved by the board. CHSP is something that is constantly evolving. The process is, so that we can ensure that it meets the human services needs of the community efficiently and effectively. One important involvement has been the adoption of the performance metrics by the board that were developed by the FSU ASCII School for the specific goal of measuring the effectiveness of CHSP to address human services in the community. This led to establishment of 16 common performance metrics that are utilized to evaluate the performance of individual programs and provide the results to the CRTs as another tool for their funding deliberations and making recommendations. And it's utilized to evaluate the overall effectiveness of CHSP funding, which is captured through our portal, and over time will allow us to gauge how we're doing in meeting the human services needs in the community based on those metrics. And I say over time, commissioners, because fiscal year 2023 marked the first year of the implementation of the performance metrics. And so FY23 will serve as our baseline, and as our baseline for evaluating the programs and CHSP overall long term. Now, since the adoption of the performance metrics, an important variable that has entered the human service space in our community for the betterment is the Children's Services Council of Leon County. Commissioners, it's important to remember that the creation of the Children's Services Council started in 2018 when the Board of County Commissioners approved placing the establishment of the CSC on the 2020 ballot. This led to approval of by 66% of voters to establish the CSC, and most importantly, establish a dedicated funding source for children, youth, and family service programs in Leon County. Commissioners, that's more than $7 million annually for children, youth, and families. In FY 2023, the CSC awarded $6.4 million to agencies for childcare, early learning, summer feeding, summer learning, youth development, mentorship, family strength building, and much, much more. The $6.4 million is more than the total amount of funding that the county and city allocates to CHSP. As I mentioned earlier, that's about $5.6 million. And 4 times more than the amount allocated specifically for children and youth families through CHSP, which is about $1.4 million. Earlier this year, the board adopted an MOU with the city and CSC that aligns with this strategic initiative to collaborate and coordinate on funding, program development, evaluation, and outcome measures. Due to the dedicated funding source for children and family services through the CSC, we worked with the city to evaluate opportunities to maximize the limited funding of CHSP to continue to meet the human services needs in the community, which is something we regularly do. So this led to the proposals and recommendations in your item that we believe will well position the county in responding to the human service needs in the community through continuous enhancements to CHSP, strategic investments, and strengthening partnerships. This includes realignment of CHSP categories, line item funding for emergency homeless shelters, and strengthening our partnership with 211 Big Ben to enhance access to human services in the community. The first proposal. First proposal calls for the realignment of the current CHSP categories from 11 to 6 to acknowledge that we have a partner now in CSC that is providing a significant level of funding for children, youth, and family programs. It's recommended that the funding from the previous categories will be utilized for emergency housing assistance and homelessness. And here's why, Commissioners. In working with the city, over the past several months, we've evaluated real-time data provided weekly by 211 Big Ben, whose helpline receives calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from Leon County residents seeking human service assistance. Most of those calls are for assistance to prevent evictions, utility disruptions, and help with finding affordable housing. Additionally, feedback and input gathered through numerous community events conducted by the county, the city, and other partners have found that housing, particularly assistance with prevent eviction, is critical to reducing poverty here in our community. And of course, the board has placed a high priority on reducing homelessness in Leon County, as reflected in the many workshops that's been held, as well as several strategic initiatives that have been adopted. And it's for this reason, in the second proposal, we're recommending that the county provide line item funding to our emergency homeless shelters to better utilize CHSP funding to reduce homelessness in the community. Commissioners, as you know, we have 5 homeless shelters here in Leon County. As we've shared previously, they receive very limited funding at the federal and state level for shelter operations. When we evaluated how other local governments invest in their shelters, we found many provide direct line item funding to their shelters because they recognize that the shelters provide critical and emergent human services that are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, offering bed, showers, and case management every day to a very vulnerable population. Real time right now, about an hour ago, or hour and a half ago, we had a call with our shelters because it's going to be frigid this evening, and so we had to activate our cold night shelter. That's why our shelter is so important here in our community. Establishing a subcategory within the homeless service category for line item funding to the shelters is expected to expand services such as case management that will more rapidly get people and families housed and assist in the community-wide goal of reducing homelessness in the community. Recommended funding level would be brought back to the board in the spring in coordination with the city and potentially the CSC, which is contemplating funding for the homelessness. While line item funding would come with line item funding would come greater oversight and accountability of the shelters, including specific performance metrics focused on getting folks out of the shelter and into permanent housing, and meeting frequently to ensure efficiencies are in place for better shelter capacity and overall operations. Our final proposal, I know it looks like a doozy, but it's quite important, of course, is to strengthen our partnership with 211 Big Ben to enhance access to human services in the community. And we propose to do this in 3 ways, Commissioners. First, by contracting directly with 211 to enhance the helpline utilized by Leon County residents to get connected to human services rather than being funded as part of the CHSP competitive grant process like they currently are. The 211 helpline provides information referrals to more than 2,200 social services in our community, again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Regularly, it's the first contact that many residents have when seeking human services. Therefore, it's important that we elevate 211 and the helpline to provide greater outreach to residents and coordinate with local providers to connect residents with available services real time so they can quickly access those available resources. Recommended funding level for 211 Big Ben would be brought back to the board in the spring in coordination with partners such as the city. The second opportunity is to strengthen our partnership with 211 Big Bend. It's to expand its on-demand Lyft transportation program, which is currently available only to veterans. But the goal would be to offer to the broader Leon County public to connect residents to essential services such as supermarkets, food banks, and medical appointments, just to name a few. Again, this will be brought back to the board in the spring with recommended funding in coordination with partners like the city and CSC. Finally, Commissioners, for the past several years, 211 has led the effort to establish a community information exchange system that would serve as a platform that allows human service providers to collect and share data on clients and metrics in order to improve delivery of human services. It also would improve the experience for residents by reducing and eliminating redundant client intake processes that allow agencies to more quickly provide services clients need. Community information exchange platforms, or CIE, have been implemented in several local communities around the nation, including in Florida. We've participated in several meetings with 211, the city, the CSC, UPHS, and United Way to learn more about the community information exchange and community interest in such a platform. Many human service partners have expressed interest and support for a CIE system that would improve access to human services and enhance communication between providers that deliver those services. Therefore, we're recommending that in coordination with 211 and the other partners that we explore the feasibility of a local CIE system that would include how it would work and what the county's role would be in terms of planning, adoption, implementation, and investment. A report would be brought back to the board in 12 to 18 months about what that potentially could look like and the feasibility of that here in our community. So the proposals are boiled down to 5 recommendations that are up here on the screen and also in your workshop packet. As you can see, Commissioners, the recommendations, many of the proposals would come back to you in the very near future for future board consideration. And with that, Commissioners, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lammy, for that presentation. I thank you, Mr. County Administrator, for that introduction. Commissioner, we have 3 proposals that have been recommended in this workshop, and I'd like to take each one separately, if that's okay. The very first one deals with the realignment of the human services categories, and I believe I have in queue Commissioner Madden.
Madam Chair, may I address the attorney? Madam Chair, I just want to make sure, Madam Attorney, I just want to address
Direct the question to
procedure. So I know under normal procedures we actually make a motion prior to discussion. Is that the same?
Mr. Matters, will you pull your mic down?
Yes, ma'am. Is that the same during workshop, Madam Attorney?
Your board policy does not differentiate, so I would say yes.
And I'm sorry, Commissioner Matters, what was the question?
So during our normal procedure, we make motions prior to discussion.
Right.
So I wanted to check to make sure we were in the same fashion for workshops. And I understand that you said you wanted to go through each of these. I was actually prepared to make a motion for items 1, 4, and 5, but I'm going to recuse myself from item 2 and 3, though I would like to speak on items 2 and 3. I'm going to recuse myself from 2 and 3 for the appearance of a conflict after talking to the attorney. So, Madam Chair, I'll take direction from you on how you want to handle it, but I was looking to make a motion on 1, 4, and 5, but if you want to go ahead and take each one separately, meaning, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then I can make my comments on whichever one you'd like for us to focus on right now, and then save the motion for later.
Okay, in clarification, Madam Attorney, since this is a workshop, your answer is we don't necessarily have to have a motion for discussion, correct?
No, your board policy applies to your meetings. Even though this is a workshop, it is a meeting. So I would say that that requirement still applies, but you can waive your policy and instead opt to just take discussion before any motions are made, if that's the will of the board.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if it's
Thank
your
you.
will, I'll make a motion to waive the policy if that's your will.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I vote aye as well.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you, Commissioner.
So, I'll go ahead and address items 2 and 3 specifically.
Okay, let me ask you this. Can you address each
Two.
one separate?
Yes, ma'am, but they
Let's
kind of
start
go
with
together.
one.
So, on item 2, when it talks about executing the MOU, I just want to make sure that as we go down this road, I think the most important thing is transition. As we're transitioning, if we're going to move this way from the county, looking at funding children's categories to being able to shift that to the CSC, what does that actually look like? Is there a delta in the funding there? So there's two pieces to this. There's the money piece to it, and there's also the process piece to it, operational piece to it. So I'm guessing item number 2 just talks about us starting the process to having that conversation to be brought back to the board so we can actually see what it talks like, what it looks like. Is that correct, Mr. Administrator? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. So my 2 concerns there is to make sure that we have a good process in place to make sure that over the next 2 years, as we transition, that those organizations that are in funding CHSP-wise for the city and county, that at least the process matches in a way that funding is not interrupted. Now, I'm not mandating by any thought of recommendation that the organizations that we fund have to be funded by the CSC and the CSC board because they're independent board to make their own decisions. Only thing I'm asking is that as we go down this road, that the process itself match. Meaning, right now we're on an annual process that starts in October, 2-year process, right? So organizations apply, they get their funding, they get a decision, they get their funding in October. They know 2 years from now or every year they're going to get their funding for a 2-year cycle. I believe that the funding process for the CSC is slightly different, if I understand. So being able to, as we transition, kind of, and I loosely understand the process for CSC in that they do it by pillar, and sometimes on 1 year maybe 3 pillars, and the next year maybe 4 pillars, but all pillars aren't considered in the same year like we do with everything being considered and funded in the same year. So it's a little bit of a difference there. So I'm looking to see some congruency or just some kind of transitional plan that doesn't put so much of a strain on those organizations that we fund, money and process-wise as we start the transition. Again, I have no interest in trying to mandate the way the CSC handles their business, nor do I have any interest in trying to mandate who they actually give the money to. I just want to make sure that, because when we do this, the funding piece of it also affects the level of service and the amount of children being serviced. And I don't know if right now CSC can fully take on what we're doing, and it still flow in a way that organizations can make that transition easily. So that's the only 2 things I would ask that we consider as we execute the MOU with the CSC and work with the city and getting all this done. And again, Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself for the appearance of a conflict, as I am the CEO of Family Promise of the Big Bend that does receive funding. Again, there is no indication that we would get all funding or any funding, but it does, to me, give an appearance that I want to be in an abundance of caution, recuse myself from the vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. And I understand your concern of looking at item number 2, which is why I'm wanting us to look at number 1 first, because I want the commissioners and, of course, myself to weigh in on the proposal for realignment of the human services category. I want us to discuss that. If we are consistent with the recommendation, then, of course, it would be a concern about funding if, in fact, everything was shifted to the Children's Services Council. So having said that, then, Commissioner Minor.
On point, you did want to discuss 2, not 1, correct?
No, number 1 is,
This is accept the report. Did you want us to take 1, Madam Chair?
the recommendation, okay. So,
If you like, I can make a motion to accept for item number 1, and then we can get number 2, if you want to take in that direction.
Question.
accept the report, okay, and then 2 is moving forward. Okay,
I have a question, Madam Chair, on the,
okay, one second, Commissioner Proctor. So you made a motion to.
I can make a motion for item number 1 if you'd like for us to go number 2. So just item number 1, which I was going to make the motion for, I can do that so we can take them in order like you suggested.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to accept option number 1. That's just the report.
Just accept the report, yes, ma'am.
Itself, okay.
ma'am.
Is there any discussion
Yes,
on
ma'am.
that one? Okay, Commissioner Proctor.
Madam Chair, am I to understand that in our signing on to option 1, that is automatically inclusive of option 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Well, that's not my understanding because I want us to discuss each one of those proposals,
Very good.
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Does anybody else disagree with that? We're going to discuss each one of those. Okay. All those in favor then, yes, Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions on this. The report, there's attachment 5 has the metrics, and there is a specific metric that factors into almost all of the categories, and that metric is described as persons linked to service provision. And so my question is, what is that specific outcome? Because it could mean persons linked to service provision is we give them the phone number or we put them in contact with the shelter, but they may end up on a wait list because we know many of our services are on wait lists. Does that include those, or does that, when we look at the number of people who get counted for persons linked to service provision, do we know they are getting the service when we count that?
Okay, so you're looking at some of the attachments with the new service metric. I think we can, let's hold that. I think we can discuss that when we get to that particular item and weigh in on it. But right now, we have a totally different motion on the floor. So can we move on that motion? And then we'll look at the specific items because I think other commissioners want to weigh in on that. Can we move with just accepting?
The only thing is this is just a question about the report, and it doesn't weigh into our decisions in our other items. This is just a question on what does the number mean in the report. That's why I put it here.
Okay. Yes, you can, Mr. Lammy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so those are actual services that the agencies or the programs are linking individuals or families to. So that's what they're counting and identifying a set of metrics of how many that they believe during that fiscal year that they're going to be able to link to services. And the services can be different forms of services. It can be for meals, it could be for housing. It's general on purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Is that clear? Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. So, Commissioner Proctor.
Madam Chair, what I thought we were asking for this workshop was to gain some appreciation from our human service partners as to the effectiveness of service delivery, as to the fairness in whether or not we needed to readjust the formula for funding, and whether or not we've developed a silk stocking category to the exclusion of other groups that, for however you qualify, can't get into the consideration for funding. I thought those would be some of the dynamics. We are very streamlined with 2, 3, 4, 5. It does not encompass the holistic thought, which I felt initially would be bringing this back. So if these are the limits and the parameters of which our staff has sought to undermine what was a big request, and I'll roll with the tide. But
thank you.
certainly not what I was looking for.
Commissioner Proctor, but I think we can delve into that when we look specifically at the specific proposals.
I thought we were
It's sort of
giving some of the
contrary.
agencies-
Commissioner Proctor, 1 second. Okay. It's sort of contrary to what I expected as well. So I think when we get into each one of the proposals that we can discuss it and flesh it out. Okay. All right. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? And I vote aye. Okay. If we can look at then the proposal, number 1, realignment of the human services categories. I have in queue Commissioner Minor. And I understand that we do need a motion on the floor and a second for discussion.
I think we voted
Oh, no,
to
we
waive the
waived
rules.
that. I'm sorry. We did.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks very much, and thanks for the workshop, and thanks to Shinkton and his team. It's a lot of great work that was done on this. I come at this with participating in the CHSP process from 3 different perspectives. Many, many years ago, I served as a volunteer on a CHSP citizen review team, and I was on the team that evaluated the children's services applications. So we met, I don't know if you all are familiar with what the volunteer process is. The whole CHSP process is tremendous because you have citizens that volunteer to be part of each of these categories, these teams that then review the applications of the applicants, the CHSP applicants, have presentations made by those agencies, and you ask questions, and then afterwards you go to a room where you debate with your fellow volunteers the funding for that category. And I learned a tremendous amount during that time. So I've got that perspective. I also was the CEO of Second Harvest at the Big Bend for quite a while, and was the applicant for funding through the CHSP process at that point. And now all of us, we're playing the roles of being on the county commission, having a say in what the process and the structure of the CHSP funding process goes. So I look at that through 3 different lenses. And I wanted to say that we'll get to the other items later on, but the line item funding for emergency shelters, the 2-1-1 partnership, the CIE, I think are really good ideas. I'd have some concerns with the categorization realignment, and here's why. I've got a lot, in some respects, having this workshop is actually good because I do have a lot of questions. We don't quite know yet, and I've not had a chance to hear from the CSC executive director on what the commitment from the CSC is on having the funding from CHSP Children's Services transition to CSC. I'm sure that our county and city staff have talked with the CSC and the board and SECA, but we've not heard much of that yet. And so I don't know what in-depth agreements have been made. The CHSP process for Children's Services has at least 34 programs that I counted. I know there's some other more general programs that serve children, but specifically programs that serve children in Leon County. There are at least 34 that apply for CHSP funding. Most of those programs, my understanding, are not eligible for CSC funding under the current CSC guidelines. A big requirement for the CSC is that the CSC cannot provide supplemental funding. It's got to basically fund either the expansion of existing programs or fund new programs entirely. I believe that's the case. So under the current structure with the CHSP, about 34 programs would have difficulty finding funding under the current CSC guidelines, which I see as a problem. One example is Kids Incorporated. Now, Kids Incorporated receives $115,000 under CHSP for the Early Head Start program. That's money that CHSP provides to Kids Inc. But that is a match for 4 times that amount in federal funding. And Ms. Heidel, please wave your arms if I'm off base here, but what that means is that Kids Inc., which currently would not be eligible for CSC funding, would lose out on that $115,000, which means we actually have a multiplier of missing out on $460,000 in federal funding for a total of $575,000 in funding that Kids Inc. would no longer receive unless we have some changes in the way CSC evaluates their applications. So why am I bringing all this up? I think we need to, before we take a leap, we need to know where we're going to land. And the stakes are very high here, right? We've got children all throughout the Big Bend, all throughout Leon County that are served by the CHSP funding. And what I'd like to do, I'm not against this proposal. What I'd like to do, though, is give us some time on this item for the workshop to have a much more in-depth discussion. I want to have discussions with our CHSP and UPHS members, talk with them. I'd like to sit down with the CSC executive director and figure out how that's going to work, because the importance of our children's services in this county are so important that we don't want to miss a beat. And we're talking about dramatically changing the funding structure they have now in the span of basically they have to apply for CHSP funding in February. So we're talking 3 months when they need to change their entire strategy of how they go about this. And the CSC would need to think about how they fund programs that currently would not be under the CSC guidelines, but yet they still desperately need funding like Kids Inc. to get $460,000 in federal funding drawn down. So those are questions, and maybe you can answer them, but I think these are questions that we all need to discuss in depth before we take this dramatic change in the way our funding for CHSP is done. I'm not against what the proposal is. I know that our county staff, our city staff are working in good faith, and it's good to reevaluate our categorizations. And things are changing, and I think it's healthy for us to be here at this workshop, but I really do want to hit the pause button on this item in our workshop because the stakes are so high and the changes are so dramatic. So, Madam Chair, what I'd like to do, if you'd like to have a motion now, I frankly like to have our discussion amongst each other
Can we
first.
have more discussion before?
But I'll have more comments on the other items in the workshop, but that's the gist of what I was talking about on this item here. One example that I'd like to try to have us do, which I don't believe was done this time, was what we did in 2017 with the changing of the CHSP funding process from a 1-year cycle to a 2-year cycle. That's when the city and county staff had multiple meetings with CHSP partners. They invited them to these meetings. They kind of presented the plan and had discussions with the CHSP recipients on what that 2-year funding cycle would do and what changes were. And you solicited a lot of input. I know because I went to at least one of those meetings as a member of Second Harvest. And so that's the kind of thing I think we need to do. The changes here are so dramatic that I think we need to have that type of input again from the people that are working every single day to help the folks that are just getting by day to day in this community. So that's my remark.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Minor. And just for clarification of one thing that Commissioner Minor said, Mr. Lamb, if you could address it. He said transferring funds from CHSP to Children's Services Council. That's not my understanding of what this proposal presents. Can you address that, please?
Yeah, we don't make that recommendation of transferring dollars into from CHSP to Children's Services Council or vice versa. But I will add, though, as the Commissioner mentioned, yes, constant conversations with our providers is critical. Whatever decision that the board makes today doesn't end that conversation. We are very, very open as we continue to work with the city, the Children's Services Council, our providers to continually bring back ideas and recommendations to the board based on the feedback and the input that we receive. So that is something we'll continue to do. We met with Kids Incorporated, with Children's Services Council, with Sika Rose Green regarding her concerns last week and talk through some of those and what the CSC is looking to do. We are not looking to stop funding children, youth, and families. That is not the goal of the realignment. Make that very, very clear. What it gives us is an opportunity, as directed by the board through the MOU adoption, to coordinate and collaborate with the city and CSC on how we can maximize our resources. That's very limited.
Thank you, Mr. Lambie.
Madam Chair, on point real quick.
On point.
Just to clarify, Shinkton, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, transfer of funds is not the correct terminology. It's basically from the perspective of a CHSP recipient, it's getting the funding from a different source.
Right.
So thank you very much for the clarification. Madam Chair, thanks for the indulgence. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few questions on this. It's a big deal, and there's no two people I would rather that I trust more on human services than Wanda and Shinkton. And so thank you for that. But it is a real big change. And so I have a few questions and comments. If we change, so this is the first year we have metrics, which
Yes.
is neat because it gives us a baseline. And those are grouped by the 11 lines. And we're going to go to 6 lines. Are the metrics going to be connected, or do we lose our baseline if we go to 6 and we lose another year of comparative?
No, they'll be connected. We'll continue to utilize our performance metrics. We'll continue to work with Askew School to refine those metrics. The metrics are critical to what we're doing.
Excellent. And then if we get rid of the 5 lines, these 5 lines, my number, which may not be correct, is that we will defund from the county 825, what was in the last year cycle, $825,000 of funds to those line items. Is that the correct amount that we will no longer fund children and family services?
For county funding,
From county funding.
no, ours is about $400,000. It's about $1.4 million in total. $1 million of that is city dollars, and about $400,000 is the county.
Okay, so about 400,000 is what we would no longer be funding. Okay. So the CHSP process has been refined over 20 years, as people have made clear to me that started before I even went to college. And so the idea, and it was in the Askew report, and it's part of the success we always hear about the CHSP process, is the organizations understand it. It is a limited administrative burden, and we continually try to make the process known. Have we established that if these organizations that would no longer qualify or be funded for children and family services under CHSP have a similar process to apply at CSC? Or are they going to have to learn a new process before February? Because keep in mind, the next application process for the 2 years of CHSP funding is this February. And so that's a short, it sounds like a long time away, but if you haven't put up Christmas decorations yet, January and February come quicker than you realize. So do we have an established process to keep it smooth and administratively straightforward for the organizations to start applying somewhere else?
The CSC has their process, and what we've been doing from the very beginning in coordination with the CSC Executive Director Sika is when funding opportunities come at the Children's Services Council, we make sure all our CHSP agencies know about them. Because it's critical that if we have that resource in our community, that they know how that resource works. And I can't speak too much for the Children's Service Council, but I know that similar to us, they hold workshops on those funding opportunities, so that way people are aware of how their process works. It is different from CHSP. It's new, like we've mentioned, CHSP is 26 years old. So there's at times growing pains even with the performance metrics, but I think it's important that when those opportunities give that the CSC is providing those opportunities so that way they can learn that process. I hope I'm trying to treat you. Yeah, okay. Well, you don't have to come up. I was just saying. I just want to.
Thank you. And so, we know, and in the report here and what we hear from service providers, what we see and we hear from our constituents is that part of the issue is we never have enough money and resources to fully fund all the community services we need. And so we know that these organizations, I have great sympathy for them because they're already overburdening, doing too much with too little. And so even a little bit of changing a process and having to figure out how to apply and what the uncertainty makes it very difficult. And so I'm aware of that. I'm cognizant of that. The other thing is my concern on the children and family services that have a metric that the organizations put in place and started tracking and submit. They move over to, if they get fortunate enough to get funding from the CSC, they're going to have to start with whatever the new metrics are for them. And so because we spent the past years refining CHSP and and building relationships with these organizations, and UPHS, where we have a contract with an organization specifically to help people get the new process, I really want to make sure that we carefully consider, is it worth changing the process on them? And so I'm looking at you, that's not a question, that's an argument. Then, my other concern is that we have, there may be issues with eligibility for grant matching. As mentioned before, the nature of funds from the CHSP, I've been told that they qualify for more broad grant matching from other sources and makes them more competitive to get more outside money, where there's concern that the nature of the money from the CSC is not as broadly applicable for competing and qualifying for outside money match. And so I want to make sure that's considered, because this is all about getting more of someone else's money to match our money. The other thing is, my concern is I think we send the wrong message, because I get the idea CSC is the Children's Services Council, and why have multiple organizations focusing on and directing and doing community services? But my issue with making a decision to send out 6 categories, or 5 categories, and 6, we're adding 1, and $400,000 of funding from the county, and saying it may send the message that the county doesn't think we have to participate in providing children and family services. We'll put it up to the CSC, and we don't need to have too much say in it, because realistically, if you don't put the money up, you don't have the say. And so we're choosing to give that up if we take that action, in my opinion. The other thing is, I'm concerned that we are, and this is actually maybe a question for the chair, is the Florida statute 125-901-8 regarding CSCs, and our ordinance from 2018 specifically says that CSC funds shall support improvements, not be used as a substitute for existing resources. And so my concern is we're doing kind of the Florida lottery education game, where the voters voted in this tax to say we want new money for children and family, and then it goes in, and the county is saying, well, we're going to stop funding $400,000 of it because the CSC can. And to me, that looks like replacing. Is that allowed? Are we allowed under statute and ordinance?
Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So actually, the CSC attorney has already reviewed this issue and issued an opinion to the CSC on this very topic, and determined that that provision, that subsection of the statute, which is an intent statute or provision, the language specifically says, it is the intent of the legislature that the funds collected pursuant to the provisions of this section shall be used to support improvements in children's services, and that such funds shall not be used as a substitute for existing resources or for resources that would otherwise be available for children's services. And the CSC attorney basically said that in reality, what this provision provides is it prevents an applicant that is able to serve a certain number of children through its existing resources from accepting additional funding without a corollary increase in the services to be provided using those additional resources. So the example that was provided was a council may determine in a given year to award funding in support of summer programs. If an applicant is able to serve a certain number of children through its existing resources, then any additional funding awarded by the council should, 1, enable the provider to increase the number of children served, and or 2, enhance the quality or range of services conveyed by the provider's summer program. So that issue has been asked and answered by the CSC attorney about what that provision of the statute means. The other thing I would say about that is the subsection 1 of 125.901 also expressly says, each county may by ordinance create an independent special district, which is what this county did, to provide funding for children's services throughout the county. So it is intended to be a comprehensive source of funding throughout Leon County, in this instance, for the purposes of providing funding for children's services. The other thing related to this particular issue is applied the way that you've asked the question. If we were to interpret it the other way, which is we can never change the existing resources, that ties the hands of the county in terms of not just your funding amount potentially, but also your existing categories for funding, which there's nothing in the statute that seems to indicate that that is what is intended here.
Mr. County Administrator.
Just, Commissioner O'Keefe, while we're on that point, just to add one additional thing, just to sort of think about simplistically, that you could make the substitution argument the way that statute reads too, that if you didn't do what we're proposing doing, that you could end up with a substitution problem. So if the CSC was to continue to run programs and fund services that the county too runs through the CHSP process, then I think you would have a substitution problem. So by us doing these things, we actually, to avoid, I think, that problem in statute, in addition to all the things that the CSC is currently doing with their RFPs and all the other things that we're doing. So I think that's just another way to think about it as well.
Thank you both. The explanation makes sense, Madam County Attorney, and the summary from what the attorney for the CSC has said. I would say, though, I would think it's one thing to say, well, if we construed we could never reduce funding if there's a CSC, that wouldn't make sense. We could never reduce it. But here we are in writing saying that we are reducing and removing these because we are expecting the CSC to step up. And so it's just, and it looks, what I gather of the prompt for this is we're going to lose rough numbers. We're going to lose a bunch of $500,000 of ARPA funds that aren't recurring, that help support more than 1 million of the homeless services. And so this CHSP pool is going to decrease by roughly $500,000 for the sake of argument. And we need to find a place to, we know we committed to keeping and at least increasing the need for homeless services funding, which is key. And one way to do that is to find what another organization could fund out of CHSP. And so my concern is that someone might look at this and say, we voted for CSC to increase children's services, and then, and this is only a small part of that. It's a huge source of funds. $500,000 is a small part of it. And then the next year, by way of this recommendation, we're shifting $400,000 of county money supporting kids to homeless services. And it just, again, it's just, to me, it sends the wrong message. I know it's difficult choices. Money doesn't grow on trees, and that's what we're facing. But my concern is just, I always hate when we ask the voters to add a sales tax for more, and we start chipping away and replacing elsewhere, which is how I see this. And then I think that's it. Just, I always want to be careful with these things and make sure that what we're doing is effective. And my concern is that that we shouldn't be motivated by anything other than by filling a budget gap, by changing what is a long-term process that we've had a lot of buy-in for people who know the system, we know how it works, and it's given us a lot of consistency. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. And let me say this on point, and I want to thank our county attorney for her input, but I just want to clarify that the legal opinion that was rendered by the Children's Services Council attorney that she read was rendered not in the context of what's before the body today. I am the county's representative on the Children's Services Council, and I specifically asked for a legal opinion on whether or not funds from the Children's Services Council were were supplanting other funds to nonprofit entities now, as it's structured right now, because many of those entities that apply for funding through the CHSP process have also applied through the Children's Services Council, rightfully so, and they have been funded as well. Okay. And so my concern was whether or not we were violating the law. And the opinion clearly was that we were not. So that's the context that that opinion was written in. I would like to have a legal opinion on whether or not there's a circumvention of the law based on the proposal that's before us today, meaning that we reduce 11 categories to 6 categories, and those other 5 categories have to look to the Children's Services Council for funding. Okay, so they're just on point. So I just wanted to place it in perspective so that the council will understand the state that that opinion was rendered. And I really think we need another one. So now I have Commissioner Proctor in queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My interpretation differs a little bit from Commissioner O'Keefe's, though his passions I respect. Shinkton, before the establishment of the Children's Services Council, was the county not submitting this $400,000 conjunctive with the city's $1 million in support of children's services?
Yes.
And that being the case, Commissioner O'Keefe, when the Children's Services Council comes online, it is not a hard interpretation that they would preempt, and that we now have a model in place that is a taxing instrument to serve. I too don't want to see monies withdrawn from children, but what gives me comfort in staff's suggestion that we move the $400,000 no longer do that is that this summer I personally appeared to the Children's Services Council, of which I chair was a member. And from the property valuations of 7%, there would have been thousands of dollars to the good, but the Children's Services Board desired to roll back the millage rate as opposed to realizing additional real dollars. The county, we received a bump of $13 million. We rolled back nothing. We took that $13 million. School board, I don't know how many million they got. They didn't roll nothing back. The city not only received the additional value, but moved a millage rate up, or rather went up on property values about 10%. But among the entities that tax, the one instrument here locally which rolled back was the Children's Services Council. So this is not a pity party that we're taking anything from the Children's Services Council. They didn't want the money that was available, and possibly will do the same thing next year. They're in a very, they believe, strong posture to deliver the services which are expected of them. So I'm very comfortable in this approach based on what I've seen, based on my effort to say, allow this surplus, if you will, dollars to go into your coffers. They declined it. So I'm okay with what we're doing. Now, I do believe, and I apologize, Madam Chair, that I have our May homelessness book in front of me with conjunctive with this. And as you all remember, at the IA, we're launching a new process to establish homelessness as a potential category. So we're in a special thinking of that. I look at these beds, and of the 590 emergency shelter capacity, we add up the Kearney is doing 375 of homelessness stuff to the combined contributions of 215 of Hope, CCYS, Refuge House, all of that. to me, this $400,000 ought to go to Kearney. They're doing the lion's share, and it's not realized when you look at what they're receiving here that was given to us from the annual CHSP homeless program funding of the $2.3 million, $2,384,000. Kearney is only receiving out of two categories, $320,000 for emergency shelter / case management, and then $50,000 for Kearney Center Health Services, for a combined $370,000 out of $2.3 million. And in the homeless effort, they're doing $375 out of 590 beds. That, to me, in terms of numbers, needs to be rescaled. It really needs to be rescaled. As we were talking about the formula for whatever we're going to re-up on, and I don't know if today, are we mandated, are we duty-bound to come up with something today? Commissioner Minor said that maybe there's something, do we have a deadline we will operate?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Proctor, at the outset, one of the things that we made sure to emphasize with the board was that the CHSP process, although it does start soon, Commissioner O'Keefe, it is February, but we do have ample time. We don't want the board to feel like you're, under the gun. We do have time to bring you back an agenda item in January if any of these options before you require additional analysis, additional information, additional work, additional direction that you may provide to us. We're very happy to do that. Let me just add one other thing, Commissioner Proctor, to that goes to your question. I think, directly to your question, I think one of the issues related to one of the recommendations before you to establish the line item funding for the shelters goes to that and gives us additional ability, Commissioner Caban, to deal with some of the operational issues. If we go line item and have a contract specific with the shelters, it allows us to do that. And in terms of funding opportunity, the ability of the board through the line item process to scale that funding to the level you deem appropriate, we certainly have that flexibility as well. And let me just also mention, because I put this emphasis at the very beginning, all of the items before you are absolutely policy issues of the board. So while we've been going down this road on a lot of the issues, they remain policy issues of the board. So again, our general approach with respect to the CSC has been that provides an opportunity for us, working with the CSC, to better align funding and to address, again, not only children's services, but all the other issues that we have in the community that the board's identified to do that. But it's absolutely a policy issue of the board. Any other direction you have, we have the ample opportunity to bring back to you in January.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Administrator. As I look at the memorandum of understanding placed before us today as an attachment 2, are we still under the March 2018 MOU with the CHSP and the city?
Yes.
That's what's abiding. Okay. So the language says that the funding allocation, I'm looking at 4B under human services category in what you've given us. The funding allocation established in 2017/18 for CHSP shall serve as the base funding level for each human service category for the next 2-year CHSP funding. Clearly, we're going to have to modify that language.
Yeah.
And I think that in whatever the final thingy is, if we get a chance, hopefully we will get a chance to review it, we need to modify.
Okay.
And that would apply to 6 categories. And the $400,000, which even as an IA entity that we serve as, we're citing and we're in the process to treat homelessness as a new category, period. And I believe that the $400,000 there gives makes our walk consistent with our talk. And if we don't have money in the category, all we're doing is talking, and we ain't gonna be able to walk it. So we need to be able to walk our talk. Let me finally say, in addition to these concerns, that looking at the 6 categories, which one of these is going to just fall in the gap? I mean, just are we anticipating that the children's services actually will catch everything that we're eliminating? That's the bottom line question.
That's a conversation we've had with SECA, with the goal of looking at how some of these programs would fit and what in the priority areas that's been identified to CSC for funding. Again, their funding process is different from what we do right now for CHSP, which is a 2-year funding cycle. There's different opportunities for funding, and I think one of the things opportunity will give us is to gain more understanding of that process and how those programs that we currently fund through CHSP would fit or not fit. I mean, it's important to look at it and see what fits and what does not fit, because at the end of the day, voters voted for the Children's Services Council as a dedicating funding source for children and families. And it wasn't just that. It also, in doing that, voted to make them the local authority on children, youth, and families here in our community. So I think it's important in our conversation with them, Commissioner, in determining what programs that we currently provide meet their needs assessments, meet what are addressing gaps that are critical, and find out what those that may not, and figure out how do we continue to look at providing them a safety net to provide the resources here in our community.
Good. My final comment on option 2 that we're going through right now, Madam Chair. And I looked at Alan Rosenwag today, and my heart became flooded. Today is his last meeting with us. And I have never been in a meeting of a county commission talking about money, and I don't remember Alan Rosenwag being there. So just a shout out to this brother and the work that he's done. Let's give Alan a hand, because it just drenched my heart to know that outstanding, committed public servant like Alan is going to the House. My final comment on this, Madam Chair, and Alan can tell us, there once upon a time that the county, we heard from CHSP members, constituent elements, one by one. And I thought, in part, that today we would hear from CHSP members and their ability to give testimony to our recommendations for efficiencies that they see could be had to modify process. It seems that what we have now, and this is not to step on anybody's toes because it's been an evolution, but it seems that our staff, and we've got a wall that denies this board and this body from directly hearing from, in an arena like this, from those constituent members. Once upon a time, we heard. Once upon a time, we examined. Once upon a time, the mission, how it's being met, all of that was grappled with in this room. We have sanitized that away from what we do, and I believe that today I was anticipating that a little bit more, but I would love to see that the grind of drilling down and hearing from the entities that they're not voiceless and their tongues are cut out of their throats. And what we're doing is to sanitize. And I want a meeting that I can hear recommendations without the sense of retribution from our constituent members, agencies, what they're thinking. That's what needs to occur. And the fact that the city is not here is indicative of great sensitivities. The county has always lent, has always been at the table, front line, in the trenches, and we've not backed away. So we're here today, notwithstanding who ain't here, but we really need to have a, what I was just talking about. And I still say that though the report and all of that We meet these people on the street, they yah, grab you by the ear in the grocery store, but, you know, everybody's a big old wall of silence. And that's an amazing thing to me. Public dollars we're talking about, and we want to hear from everybody's mind. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. I believe I have Commissioner Welch in queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for being late. I'm one of the few people that can be late coming from the school. I understand what you guys are trying to do. I understand what the bigger picture is here. But I do share some of the concerns, specifically that Commissioner Minor voiced. I think the problem is, and we received some emails from our community human service partners who were concerned about what we're doing. And I feel like we got too many questions that are unanswered to launch this boat yet, right? I feel like, you just said yourself, we don't exactly know how the CSC's categories work, how their processes work, how their funding, how these things are going to fit into their funding mechanisms, their alignments, whatever. Well, that's a big problem because, we have people that depend on this money, organizations that depend on this money. So we're like launching a boat. We don't know where the holes are in the boat. And so it could sink, start taking on the water. And so specifically with option 2, I think Commissioner Proctor made a good point. If I read the agenda item right, the city refused to come to this meeting. Is that correct?
They declined.
They declined.
But we've been working very closely with them
Right.
throughout this process and developing the proposals. And they intend to bring an item in December.
Right.
based
So,
on-
Madam Chair, if I may, when we're talking about option 2 and altering the MOU, that's pretty important that the city be on board with what we're trying to do. So you, I assume, have had conversations with your counterparts at the city and they're
Absolutely.
on board with this realignment. But it's still, the question is still begged about the CSC's role in this. And I think in a perfect world, if we could say confidently that the CSC will be able to fill the gaps in the boat and seal up the cracks, everything will be fine and it'll float just great. But that is the concern that I have, is that we are pulling this funding in a short time frame for reapplying for it. Rotary Camp, the North Florida Rotary Camps thing, I assume that would fall into one of the new 6 categories about disabilities, but I don't know exactly where everything else is going to fit into that. And so I think it's crucial, if we're going to be redesigning a community human service partnership, that we have input from our human service partners that they feel gives them comfort in providing the services that they provide. And so I'm going to have, obviously I don't have any problems really with 3, 4, and 5, but option 2, initiating a change to the MOU with the city who's not even here, who has a big bulk of this funding, which I can accept that you guys think they're going to go along with it. But I think that I'd feel a lot better about it if our partners had confidence in what we were doing and had felt like they had enough input that they were going to take some solace in knowing that their funding's not going to get pulled. I think that the ripple effects of matching funding and federal funding and the implications that are in place, I think, are big problems, and we don't have the answers to those questions yet. So I would feel much more comfortable supporting this if we had answers to those questions. So I don't know if the time frame is too short, or we need to give direction to the county administrator for coming back in January with maybe ask for some input from our partners. Mr. County Administrator, is that something that could be facilitated before we bring this back in January?
We could, yeah, and that's something that I wanted to make clear, that we could certainly do that. We've got, we believe, the time to do that. One of the things that we have with what you've been, hearing from our providers, which I don't mind saying here, all my friends, notwithstanding that they're so shy, we hardly, anybody that knows them knows that. But we do have the opportunity to bring this back to you. One of the things that we do in getting to this point, it's a little bit tricky, is, so what we've got before you today is like the what. Do you want us to proceed in doing this? We've sort of got to bring that to you first before we do the how. Because if we went down and engaged partners and everything and said all the hows, you all would be hearing from everybody and you would be like, well, we didn't even say do that. So it's a little bit of a dance that we do, but we get to this point. If you say go, again, I've got all the confidence. I know our team and the CSC and others have great confidence that we could bring you back the how. If you'd like that to be in January, I think we have the time to do that, and we'd be happy to do that and engage our human services agency partners in that process as well. So I think we could do that if that's what the board decided.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that, Mr. County Administrator. Obviously, as Commissioner O'Keefe said, we have complete confidence in what you guys can do, what you're trying to do. I have 100% confidence that you know more about it than I do. All right, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that, as a matter of policy, we are coming back with some level of confidence to our partners. I mean, they are our partners. So with that information, you know, I'll sort of acquiesce to the will of the board in terms of what we're going to do on these options, but I would like to, whoever makes the motion on the other stuff, to include some follow-up with our staff in January in terms of having some communication with those partners.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Welps. Commissioner Maddox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when I started the conversation talking about the fact that one of the things that kind of gave me some, not even pause, because I think I understood it what the administrator said, that this would kind of start the process. But one of the things we have to work through is process and money. What is it going to look like for the CSC? I don't think the CSC is mandated, like I said before, in taking anything of our process on. Mm-hmm. So it would actually be us asking them, if we're looking at doing this, what is it going to look like for you to have everything? Money-wise, is there going to be a shortage there that maybe we can talk about? Commissioner Meyer, you didn't say it, but I was thinking it. Is there a transfer of funds there? Do we consider taking some of our dollars and giving it to the CSC to kind of shore up any kind of shortage in funds that they may have to be able to fund, or are they adequately funded to be able to take on everything? So I think for me, when I'm listening to the conversation, we got so caught up in the details of what things actually look like that I don't even think we really discussed whether or not we really wanted to open the door to really start the process of seeing what it looks like. Mr. Administrator, Madam Chair, the MOU that you approved, that if we give you the opportunity to approve and execute, it will come back to us for final approval, correct?
Absolutely.
And especially based on the direction that we think we may get with relative to the January date, then it certainly would. The way it's written right now, it would be to approve it and execute. But again, I think the board can provide us different direction than that to make sure that it comes here first.
Madam Chair, also this item that we have today will come back for us for ratification during the next board meeting, correct?
Absolutely.
At which time human services organizations that want to comment on what we've done here today can do such. If the ratification is not approved, what happens at that point, Madam Chair? At that point, Madam Chair?
I think everything remains as is.
Exactly. So we will have an opportunity to hear. If we don't like it, what we do today, then we could vote against ratification and things that stay as is, which also gives us an opportunity to kind of move through that process. I think, too, we got to recognize the city is an independent body from us. They may be partners, but they get to make their own decision. The fact that they're not here today says nothing more than they want to be able to sit in their own chambers and make a decision about how they want to do their funding without having the consideration of sitting in the chambers and making a decision with us. And I applaud them for making an independent decision on how they want to deal with it. Because if we decide to move in a certain way, it does not mean that they have to move in the same way. So them not being here does not bother me as much. Again, I think for me, the question goes back to, and we could change the motion a few ways to accommodate what we're talking about here. It could be a thing where we authorize the county administrator to approve and execute, but also that it will come back to us before final approval. We could also talk about having a workshop looking at how we could, how things would be, how the CSC would take on the children's services piece of it that we've traditionally fund, so we can get some comfortability there. We just call it a transitional meeting of sorts to look at what would happen processing money-wise if there's some discomfort there. But today, specifically, what I'm understanding is that we're talking about, do we even want to open that door? And though I am recusing myself from the vote, I think that's the thing that the board has to chew on a little bit, is not necessarily process, because we still got a lot of work when it comes to process and whatever the board wants to do as far as arranging meetings and things like that to talk about the process. I think the board has to do, understanding that there's a timeline. The other piece of it that I'll say is that we got CHSP coming up in February. The fact of the matter is, if this is not done before February, I would suggest we keep things as is so as not to miss that funding. Then we're at a 2-year cycle before we can consider anything like this again. So it's even if we want to consider shifting things, maybe it's, again, going back to the thought of, I won't say shift. If we want to consider CSC taking things and being an expert, maybe it's the thought of CSC, let's sit at the table, see what it looks like for you, so we understand which categories are filled, which ones aren't. We can understand the risk in that. We can hear from and I was suggesting agenda item. We can hear from the organizations, and then we can make a decision from that point. But understand that if we open this door now, or in my opinion, we really look at keeping things as current, the categories as current for the next 2-year cycle. I think that's where we are right now. So, Madam Chair, thank you for that. But I really want us to, I heard a lot of questions, a lot of comments about the process. I didn't hear as much about whether or not we really want to open the door. And if we open the door, then from that standpoint of opening the door, what we'd like the process to look like to come up with the process when it comes to money and process. That makes sense.
That makes
Thank you, Madam
sense.
Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner Proctor.
Just on point. So the process that Commissioner Maddox just mentioned, I'm thinking that we're relinquishing to CSC to offer a process. Are you saying that we would retain ultimate oversight as well as putting forth the idea of a process?
Madam Chair, on point. What I'm saying is that their process is their process. We get to understand their process at some point, and then we make a decision on our own is if that process is good enough, or not, I won't say good enough, if that process fits enough for what we do to not put our organizations that funds our children at risk, and then we can make a decision.
Okay.
So it's that way versus saying their process, they control our process. No, we're talking about losing 6 categories. It is understanding the risk, because if we lose these 6 categories, what is it going to look like when those organizations have to go across the street or to CSC to apply for those categories? Who's going to be left in the shuffle? Who's not? What are they willing to entertain that we do? What are they not? That kind of thing.
All right. Well, my key thing, Madam Chair, is that we're not creating a process that fosters a constriction of access, but that we're empowering a process and greenlighting one that expands access. And we cannot afford to create silk stocking elements and no stockings at all. So a process has to be one that is open for all with fair and equal possibility. If it's based on merit, of meritocracy, that they would merit support of CSC's review.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. I don't think I have anybody. Oh, Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Maddox, you brought up something that kind of was a springboard for something I want to point out too. So I think the general consensus that we're arriving here is that let's have county administrator and staff talk with the CHSP recipients, get some input from there, more in depth than what you've already done. I know you've already done some, but talk about that, seek their feedback, come back with something in January that reflects that feedback. But then one thing I want to point out, let's say we have that agenda item come back in January. We still have some questions. It just doesn't feel like the right step to take at that point. If we don't get this done by February, as Commissioner Maddox said, we could wait another 2 years until the next funding cycle is coming to a close. But guess what happens then? The CSC, Sika and her team, are going to be working with a lot of the same children's services partners that the CHSP currently works with now. So over the course of that 2-year funding cycle, many of those agencies will apply to the CSE funding anyway. So we're going to probably achieve much of that functional transition regardless. So I bring that up because that's an important thing we have not talked about yet. If we can't come up with something that we're all happy with at the January meeting, we still have that 2 years where the CSE, as the leading authority on children's services provision in this county, will be continuing to maintain its presence and get even more and more effective at providing children's services with these partners. And so when 2 years comes, 2 years from now, we can then reevaluate at that point and see which of those children's services agencies are still being funded by CHSP and then make a decision there. So I say all that to say that if we come up with a decision in January that works and the city agrees, that's fine. I think we'll all be happy with that so long as our agencies have input on that. If we don't, I think that natural tendency with the CSE gaining more of that market share is going to happen anyway. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Minor. On point, our county administrator.
Very, very quick. Yeah, just to underscore what Commissioner Minor said, just for clarity, in January, if that's part of your motion, when we bring this back to you, we will, if we haven't answered your questions relative to transition and process, and certainly that doesn't put the board in any different posture than you're in today, in that, again, you can keep things the way they are. As you mentioned, you won't have the opportunity to reallocate the $1.4 million to address the needs that we've identified relative to the other things. So again, we'll bring it back. If we don't answer all of your questions relative to transition and all the issues that you've raised, then certainly you can give us direction at that point.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Commissioner O'Keefe.
Yes, one quick question. As the local authority on children's services, did the CSE request us to take this action?
Can you answer that, Mr.?
Which action, Commissioner? I'm sorry.
This
The realignment?
proposal, the recommendation.
Did the CSE ask us to remove and defund these 5 categories?
No, they did not. We did have several conversations with the CSE Executive Director about what we were looking to do, and she has been lockstep with us throughout this process and supportive of the recommendation that we're bringing before you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe.
Madam Chair, what you want us to do right now?
Well, I'd like you to hear my comments first.
Very good.
And then we'll take it from there. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Hunter and Mr. Lammy and the entire staff, county administrator. I know this was very time consuming. I know our memorandum of understanding 2018 was that we would all be willing to collaborate, come together, and clearly do what's in the best interest of our children. I think this is a very important step. I believe we need to be slow and deliberate about it. And I'm thinking, as the county's representative on the Children's Services Council, my perspective might be a little different from my other fellow board members. Commissioner Proctor mentioned our millage rate, and we did vote this year to roll back the millage rate with the presentation and representation from our executive director and our staff that the programs that were projected for this year would be met, that we would have sufficient funding because property taxes increased because property values increased. So being good stewards of the public funds, when we looked at what the Children's Services Council would gain from the millage rate, and when we looked at a rollback, we still are experiencing some increase in the funding that we will have for this year. At the time we voted to reduce the millage rate, we were concerned about the increase in taxes on several levels in the county, the city, and in other places. We considered citizen input. However, this particular proposal was not before us. It was not in any way contemplated by me as a member of the Children's Services Council, as a board member. It was not. So we weren't derelict in reducing the millage rate. We were concerned about services to our children, and it was clear that we could still provide the same level of projected services this year or next year with the rollback in the millage rate. Okay. Having said that, on the Children's Services Council, pursuant to the statute, we were required to do a needs assessment so we could determine where to direct the funds that would be coming in from the taxes. And we did that needs assessment. That needs assessment, however, was done based on services that were already being provided to our children prior to the passage or the implementation of the Children's Services Council. So we have to understand that, in my opinion, collapsing the majority of the children's services to the Children's Services Council is putting us back at ground zero or below.
Of what?
Because our analysis, the analysis from Q&Q, a major consultant that came in for months, was based on what we were already providing to our children. And so consistent with Florida statute, then it was our role to make sure when we contracted for services with any entity, it was designed to improve, enhance what was already being provided. And I believe the citizens of Leon County, myself included, I was very much in support of the creation of the Children's Services Council so that we could provide more services to our children. But we already had a baseline. Mm-hmm. And the baseline was the services that are being provided by many of the entities that go before the CHSP every 2 years now for funding. So you take that away, and I think the statistics are skewed. The analysis is skewed. I don't believe it was contemplated by the citizens of Leon County. I don't think it's contemplated in Florida statute that funding would be reduced from governmental entities, city, county, that funding would be taken away through the CHSP process or directly, and that every entity would be funded by the Children's Services Council. I don't believe that was the specific intent. Commissioner O'Keefe looked at the statute, and the statute does say such funds shall not be used as a substitute for existing resources. The resources from the county now and the city now are existing resources. And of course, the county and the city could decide to take those resources away. And they could take them away in a year or 6 months, and then we come back and say, well, there are no existing resources anymore. We could do that, but I think it would be circumventing the statute. I think it would be circumventing the very statute that allows Children's Services Councils to be voted on by citizens and to exist in our various counties. I appreciate the fact that the partners, the funding partners, Children's Services Council, City Council, have come together and submitted a proposal. But I think it needs to be refined some more, as a member of the board of the Children's Services Council, I have a concern with transferring 5 categories to the Children's Services Council without any funding whatsoever. We are already almost at capacity. We might be over capacity of our administrative funds. Okay? And we're not going to get any more funds based on our millage rate. So it's nothing carved out for more staff. We're bursting at the seams as far as services that need to be provided, but we don't have enough staff. Our executive director had to kick and scream this year to add 2 more positions. And I think there's usually a formula of 10-15% for administrative costs. And I believe we might be there, might be over. I don't know if in consideration with the Children's Services Council, in discussions with them, if there was a discussion about how this work would be performed with the limited staff that we have now. And I think from a fiscal standpoint, we have to be concerned. Well, I'm concerned as a member of the board. I'm not sure if it's in order to hear from our executive director who is here today, but that's a lot of work on our current staff. And we won't be receiving any more funds to implement programs to accommodate the entities that are being funded now to the through the CHSP process. And one of the things I think is reality. We have to recognize we don't have that structure in place with the Children's Services Council. Okay, and going forward, whatever is adopted, every last one of those entities that have gone year after year through CHSP, and I'm familiar with it because I have gone through it with a couple of boards, nonprofit boards here in Tallahassee that I sit on. But for the most part, each one of those entities that go before every 2 years for funding, I don't know of any entity who didn't receive funding. Some years you have a reduction in your funds. Some years you can establish that you need more funding. The agencies that I've sat on, we would never just totally deny funding. With the Children's Services Council, it's a great, great, great possibility that many of those entities won't receive funding through this Children's Services Council. They just won't. I can tell you now, based on funding that we have approved so far, they will not be funded. Now, I recognize that many of those entities receive funding other places, and somebody mentioned matching funds, and I think in your analysis that you gave us, we recognize that many of those nonprofits use funding from CHSP as match for other grants and what have you. I'm afraid that some of those possibilities will go away if we adopt this process. So consistent with Commissioner Maddox and some of the other commissioners, I think we need to be slow and deliberate, number one. I think we need to consider the overall ramifications of this service to our children. I mean, on the Children's Services Council, my primary concern is our children and services for our children. And I just believe this move, without more specifics, is going to take away many of the services that are being provided right now. And I know I've talked a long time, but finally, I am concerned about the statute. I'm concerned about the letter of the statute, and I appreciate our county attorney reading the opinion from Brown, Miller, and Olive's attorney, but I explained the context it was in. So I would like to, whoever, within the entertainment of a motion, I would like to have a legal opinion on whether or not, if funding is pulled away by the county, the city, and those 5 programs are collapsed with the Children's Services Council under the auspices that there are no resources now to those entities, whether or not that circumvents Florida statute.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
may I
ma'am.
on point?
Please.
I'll go ahead and give this body my legal opinion for what I think is permissible or impermissible for this body. I will
Absolutely.
refer to the city attorney's office to give the city an opinion about what they can or can't do.
Absolutely. That would be my direction. Absolutely. And even with the attorney with the Children Services Council, because we would be on the receiving end. And of course, if it's any circumvention of the law, a violation of the law with the funding, it would be with the Children's Services Council for the most part, right?
And I can give you my opinion now to this body if you'd like it, is what I'm saying to you.
Okay, well, you can, yeah. As soon as I finish. Okay. But then I'm really just about done. But I just want us to be slow and deliberate. Look at the ramifications overall, primarily for our children, because that's what we are concerned about. Is our children, and if it's legal and lawful, based on a legal opinion, then I think we need to look at the practicality too. It might be legal, but is it practical? Is it within the best interest? Okay, and Madam Attorney, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, to provide a little background and context for those of you who haven't seen the memo, Chair Cummings asked, in her capacity as a member of the CSC attorney, the question about whether, in relation to federal law, which does have very express prohibitions about when federal monies are being received, that those federal monies can't then be used in a way that would otherwise enable other governmental agencies not to contribute and pay for children's services or other types of Title I programs, okay? The difference in this statute is, again, it is an intent statute. It does not say anywhere in this statute if a county creates a CSC and it is currently providing resources for children's services, the county thereafter shall never and may never decrease or completely delete those existing resources or use of those existing resources for children's services. So even if you read it the way that Chair Cummings is reading it, it is not a prohibition. Now, that does not then mean that this board can maintain the funding, increase the funding, decrease it to $1, decrease it to $0. And in part, that's an acknowledgement of the fact that a budget is a budget. It has to be, it's going to be different every year depending on the needs and demands and everything else. I'll give you an example. Last year, we were staring down a bill for FRS where we were going to be in the hole millions of dollars. If we'd ended up needing to adapt and adjust our budget to address that hole in our budget, you might very well have had to decrease the amount of money that you provided for all of CHSP, not just children's services. The county and the city aren't the only entities for which these partners receive funding. They receive it from federal governmental entities. The state legislature can't dictate that those federal entities continue to maintain existing resources for children's services because the CSC exists, just like the state may currently provide resources for children's services. There's nothing in here that prevents the state legislature from cutting that funding or improving it, whatever they want to do. So all I'm going to tell you is it is not prohibited that this board decrease funding from children's services or completely do away with it. It is completely a policy decision for this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam County Attorney. Is there any comments? Haven't heard. Commissioner Proctor.
Madam Chair, I'd like to, I have fashioned thought consistent with the thoughts of the CSC from the summer. when theirs was a mind that did not consider future things that come up, and they roll the millage rate back. So I was well pleased that in their wisdom, they were adequately funded and could meet challenges. But I'm also persuaded to the notion of closing 5 categories, which is almost 50% of the 11 categories, that we place, and we want to be sure, is what the chair is saying, that we're not fostering an unfunded mandate upon the CSC, and that an analysis and fiscal evaluation of what that would mean is not clear. I'm going to walk with the chair in her ask for us to slow option 2 down because it's not prime time ready or clear with respect to, are we disenabling in fostering a bigger mess? And I like the metaphor of my colleague from District 4 who talked about, are we creating, and we don't know where the holes in the boat are, and are we creating holes in a boat, and we're shifting it and pushing it off out. So I could understand that. Thank you for simplifying for me. Madam Chair, I'd just like to offer the motion that we table option 2 with direction for additional staffing to give us analyses of economic impacts upon Children's Services Council, and that we gain crystal clear, written, definitive legal response on what that statute y'all was talking about, what that means, and that we would just simply incorporate concerns, hesitations that have been enunciated here. And our staff will bring that back to us. Option 2, this element, will bring it back to us in January. I was especially charmed by Commissioner Maddox's comments about us receiving comments from the rest of the field and affording their voices to be heard and not just smushed and said, you're gonna, this is the process, this is it. We may hear something keener than what we ourselves have arrived at. So I don't know how we plug that in, but I would love to have public input with respect to whatever the shifting of the 5 categories. So that would be my motion.
Thank you. Thank you. It's moved, and we've got a second. Is there any comment? And I believe, Commissioner Proctor, before we vote, when the item is brought back, Mr. County Administrator, then the public, nonprofits, interested citizens will have an opportunity to weigh in. Generally at workshops, we don't have that citizen input. Am I correct?
And yes, and of course, we'll also engage them in the meantime and have that reflected in the item that comes back to you.
Absolutely.
I like writing. I mean, I apologize that I do. I would love to see let's give a written period of couple weeks, if they want to write a statement or so. I prefer reading than, I don't always remember hearing, but I can remember if I read it.
So as part of your motion is that staff reach out to the nonprofits to see if they want to respond in writing as well?
Sure.
Is that okay?
That is
Mr.
not
County Administrator?
punitive.
Okay, is that okay? Mr. Commissioner Caban, you second it. Okay. Commissioner Minor.
Madam Chair, really quickly, regarding the legal opinion, and Madam Chair, you had talked about this in your comments a few minutes ago. Madam County Attorney, I totally understand your legal opinion on the county perspective, but for me, that wasn't the question. I mean, I know we have the ability at the County Commission to increase, maintain, or reduce the budgets that we provide to CHSP. My question is what Madam Chair was talking about, which is regarding CSC's ability to fund organizations that have existing programs that are coming to this CSC for funding. And Madam Chair, you talked about, I think, Shington, you talked about it as well, about the legal opinion from, I think, Bryant Miller Olive, very reputable law firm, but it was that legal opinion was provided in the general context. It was not provided in this specific context for our situation. And to address your point, ma'am, I think this is your request, and it certainly is mine. I'd like to have, if Commissioner Proctor is willing, to have part of his motion include a legal opinion from CSC's attorney that would address this specific case. Am I being too trivial? Perhaps, but I think the magnitude of this change is such that if, for whatever reason, if this specific case were not compliant with Florida statutes, we would have to move heaven and earth to make sure that our children's services agencies were getting funding if for some reason, small chance, that as a CSC we're not able to fund these agencies like we had thought with the general legal opinion. So long way to come around it, but Commissioner Proctor, would you, just to clarify, do you include that specific legal opinion as part of your motion?
On
That
point.
we ask staff to reach out through the Children's Services Council for that opinion.
On point. So are you asking the CSC attorney to give a legal opinion to the county or to the CSC?
CSC.
You said the CHSP attorney.
Did I say CSC? I meant CSC.
Yeah.
Madam County Attorney, you know, your client is the county, so
Correct.
you're not allowed to provide legal advice on the CSC's position, I believe, right?
That's correct, yep.
So you did exactly what you're supposed to do, which is you provided a legal opinion within the confines of the county commission's role and responsibilities.
Right.
What I would like to have happen, and I realize maybe we don't have the authority to request this of the CSC, but in order for us to have the information that we need to make a solid decision, I'd like to see if the county administrator and his staff could reach out to the CSC and see if they'd be willing to ask for a specific legal opinion on this specific case. Does that address your point, ma'am?
Right, and just for clarification, because I know if I were the attorney receiving the request, I'd want to be very clear about exactly what the legal opinion that's being requested is about. So what exactly are you requesting that the CSC attorney opine on?
Related to their previous general opinion, without context, I'd like to see if the CSC attorney would be willing to provide an opinion on us to this request, where the county commission through CHSP has funded children's services programs, and then per the agenda item that we just discussed, basically phase that out, not fund it, with the hope that the Children's Services Council will then be the receiver of applications to fund that. So in other words, we have existing programs that are funded through the CHSC process. They would no longer be funded by the county.
Right.
So those programs exist, but yet the CSC would then come in and basically provide funding for those programs that were not funded any longer by the county. Is that something that the CSC is permitted to do?
No,
How is that a legal opinion? Because I think what you're asking is, can the CSC, if the county stops funding the programs it currently funds, under the current structure, can and will the CSC fund those programs? Is that what you're asking?
It's what Commissioner O'Keefe referred to as the lottery shell game, right? With education back in the 80s, you know, you would have lottery funds coming in for education funding for the state. What the state did was they reduced their baseline education funding and used funding from lotteries to come in and basically make it whole. That's what the statutes for CSC want us to avoid, right? So what Commissioner O'Keefe was referring to is what I'm concerned about here. Is the CSC permitted to basically do that? If the county reduces its funding, which we know we're allowed to do, based on your opinion, and I totally trust that.
Yeah.
But if we reduce our zero funding on some children's services funding provisions, is the CSC allowed to come in and fund those from there on out?
That's a very clear
that's the
question.
information that we're going to bring back in.
Yep, thank you.
I think that's the
Thank you,
information. I think it was my motion you asked.
It was.
Accept that? No, I don't. We don't need, we would like that, not in the form of an ask of, but to bring back as information included with the January item with respect to the last way in which you stated that. But I want to use the word ethic, that's too strong. But as a matter of protocol and process, this is the lawyer we pay and I lean on and count on. And I don't need their lawyer to tell us, our position, legal, whatever. I trust her. We're not going to ask the city for their legal opinion. We ain't asking the school board. We asked the state attorney general for an opinion, but we don't need their opinion. We got council attorney, chairwoman, and member, and her. I trust that.
But Commissioner Proctor, on point, what the Madam Attorney just said a few minutes ago is that she can't provide a legal opinion on what the CSC can do. It's outside the scope of her authority. She doesn't work for the CSC. She can only she can only opine on what the county commission is permitted to do.
Let me say this. As a member of the Children's Services Council, I think we, as the board, at the council, we can request that because we would be the funding entity, the funding agency. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon the board of the Children's Services Council to get that clarification from our attorney, and
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
do that. We can.
Recognizing that the CSC doesn't have to abide by our request, but they don't have to comply with our, it's not a.
But as a member of the board, I think I can request the executive director, or I can directly request the
Madam
attorney,
Chair,
I believe, for that.
To make
for
it
that
clean,
opinion.
to make it clean, what we could do as a board, we could ask the chair of the county commission to send a letter to the chair of the CSC requesting that chair of the CSC ask the legal opinion of which you've asked our attorney to send to their attorney instead of and we do, our chair being the member of the board would just be sending the request instead of.
I would say that would not be a good idea because that would be a potential sunshine law violation. One
Yeah.
member of the CSC board asking another member of the CSC board for something outside of this.
I didn't say the member, I said to send it to their attorney or the chair.
Let me just clarify. I think we can get that opinion.
Okay.
Okay. So let's not muddy what we're doing. I think we can get that opinion. Okay. All right. If no other comments, we've got the motion on the floor for the
Madam
agenda
Chair,
item to
I'm
come
sorry,
back.
but just to clarify.
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, ma'am, so the legal opinion on the specific context here, is that going to be part of the motion or not? Or
No.
is-
No,
I didn't
not with the
accept.
Children's Service Council.
Okay. All right, so
Okay.
we will not be requesting that of the CSC.
No, I think we can get that opinion.
Without having it part of the motion.
Right,
Okay.
without it being part of our motion.
Right.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you guys so much for your input. Sir.
That was option two.
Okay. All right, so that was,
Madam Chair, I move option three and, move option three, adoption of option three recommendation.
so we have option 3. Is there a second? Okay, and this relates to line items for homeless shelters. Commissioner Maddox.
Use myself for the appearance of a conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Maddox.
And one of the things, Madam Chair, if I might enlarge while I'm endorsing this, is that we're directing staff to provide options for the appropriate funding levels. And I think that if we look at it, what I've noted earlier, that of the 590 beds, that 375 is currently their funding level is not a pro rata, in equal pro rata basis of how much work they're doing with the beds. So I'd like to see that tweaked and make it more in line with the labor that they're providing.
So is that part of your motion, that they address that, Mr. County Administrator? Okay. Yes. All right, good. Any
Madam
other
Chair,
comment?
On point?
Commissioner Maddox, and you
I have
recused
no-
yourself?
Yes, I'm accusing myself, but I can't comment, correct? Yes. So just on point, Commissioner Pryor, I want the board and everybody else to understand that the way this works is there's 3 different emergency shelters that satisfy different things. Whereas the Kearney Center, CSSC, deals specifically with homeless individuals. CCYS deals with children, and HOPE deals with families. So whereas the Kearney Center itself deals with individuals at those 375 beds, and though the number of differences between CCYS and Breon and others, the way we deal with our folks, understand that we're all deal with different constituencies. Families don't go to Hope. Families don't go to Kearney. Children don't come to Hope. Pregnant mothers don't go to either. They go to Breon. So as we consider this, understand that that's how things work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the distinction.
Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Maddox. Is there any other comments before we vote? All those in favor? Was option 3, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. And I vote aye. And Commissioner Maddox abstained. Did you vote aye, Commissioner Caban?
I was in queue to speak. I had a question. I was in queue. I was trying to.
I didn't see. I apologize.
I was trying to wave you down.
Okay, we've already voted, but you can make a comment if you like.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll vote aye.
Madam Chair, I vote aye as well. I was waiting for comment.
Thank you. Any objection? All right, it passed with Commissioner Maddox abstaining. We're now at options 4 and 5. I will entertain a
Madam
motion.
Chair, move option 4, and I think that here under 4, it actually intersects with the interests of Commissioner Minor with respect to the Children's Services Council and being a part of the FY 2025 budget of Leon County's process. I think that a lot of that can be answered because I'm not saying that they shouldn't double dip, but to me, if you got a tax that's funding you, and I think that the value of property is not going down, this is going to be increased as far as we can see. I don't know why we would have a line item and have a tax that we're paying. That's double dipping, and I think to your concern, it goes here. So,
Madam Chair,
especially
second
if this is
motion.
on your point, so I make that motion.
Okay, you made the motion. Who do I have in queue? Commissioner O'Keefe?
Option 4 was my motion.
Option 4.
To adopt.
Okay. Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this. It's 2-in-1 is an incredible resource, and I won't waste everyone's time letting you know what you already know. One thing I want to do is mention this Lyft transit program. It's something I've been very interested in and spoke a lot with 2-in-1 about. And we're being asked to recommend, as part of this, we're being asked to recommend putting up $60,000 to allow the program to continue, to allow 3 trips for veterans each month to doctor's appointments, food banks, interviews, and 1 for non-veterans. And so one thing that they've told me about as part of their pilot, if you will, is that this is an incredibly useful and popular and quick way to help their clients and to help their counselors in sort of getting started and building a rapport with clients. And so they ran out of money last year because it was so necessary, and it is such a need. And so I'm going to, leading up to, I'm going to ask for a friendly amendment. But before I do that, I'll just say that I would hate for when they ran out of money, and if we only limit to 1 trip per month for non-veterans, that we have a service available. We have a doctor's appointment for a pregnant mother. We have a food bank available. We have a job interview available, but they can't get there because they've already taken their 1 trip that month. And so instead of $60,000 in the recommendation, I'm going to ask if the motion maker would accept that we recommend $75,000 instead to allow more rides for this program, since it's relatively a small amount of money to meet a very key need.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam Chair,
Can I provide
To this
just
point.
quick clarification, Commissioners? So that $60,000 is overall, but the intent is when we bring it back to you, Commissioners, in the spring, that it would actually be funded in partnership with our other providers. So it wouldn't be the county providing the full 60. So I just wanted to share that with you. So when it comes back, that's something that number would actually be less than that.
Then I would say that that we modified that our target overall is now 75.
Okay.
Very good. Madam Chair, I want to just
Yes.
ask a point of clarification from the county administrator. Is the word Big Bend a problem for Leon County taxpayers to underwrite, or is this for Leon County?
No, it is not. It's for Leon County.
Yeah, Leon County only.
So the word is not a misnomer?
This would be for Leon
211
County.
Big Bend. Okay, good.
It's fine.
All right, thank you.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Lynn. How do we pay for those rides? Because I have the same concern that if we limit older people, handicapped, veterans, to one ride per month, some of our older people have doctor's appointment. If they're handicapped, they can't even get in a conventional car. They would have to have, the lift. But in many instances, you have a doctor's appointment, and 2 weeks later, they want you to come back. So how do we address that limitation? How can we broaden the services, to allow
So
that we're going to look at?
One of the beauties of the LIFT program that they do is that it also connects people to other resources of transportation service that are available. Specifically, and I'm talking about, is Dial a Ride. Dial a Ride through Star Metro in the city is specifically looking at doing something similar when it comes to on-demand for people who are disabled, who are elderly, who are signed up for their Dial a Ride program. So that way they can also access the resources. So that's something that the city is actively doing now. We met with the Star Metro team maybe a month ago to talk about this specifically and about what they're looking to do. So that's something where in 211 is very aware of that. And so what 211 does is that in providing this opportunity as part of the LIFT program, it's not limiting anyone to just that LIFT program, because as we know, that resource is so limited that it's important to use it and build upon other resources we have in our community.
So how we bill, can you give us some insight on how we are billed per ride, or do we have an overall contract?
Yeah, we would contract with 211 Big Bend, and they would, the funding that we provide them, when someone calls 211 for a ride, they schedule it at least 24 hours in advance, and then when that ride arrives, 211 would pay for those rides. They would pay for the rides that person takes from point A to point B, and then point B back to home also.
They pay for the ride, but then we are
Within the
billed.
funding that we provide them.
What is the billing amount is what I'm asking. Do we know?
I believe it's about, it all depends, because, the way Lyft, like Uber, it all depends on
Where you going,
where you're
where you
going.
coming
Yeah,
from.
yeah, it varies.
Okay.
It varies, the time, the demand times and stuff like that, so.
I was just wondering if
Yeah.
looking at those variables would help us, increase the numbers per month.
Yeah, we'll tell them not to do it during football season. I'm kidding.
During football.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, Commissioner. Let's see. Commissioner Minor, I believe I saw first. Okay, and then,
Madam Chair, I appreciate it. I'll try to be as quick as I can because I know we're getting long in the tooth here. The agenda item talks about how this item would help enhance the 211 helpline, which is great. And I know that Matt is here with his team, but one thing that I know that takes place is that 211 does a hero's job trying to do the follow through. So when someone calls the helpline, I know they do everything they can with the resources that they have to follow up with that person after that person is referred, to make sure that that person actually got the resources that they were asking for, right? But does some of this work that you're talking about with this agenda item actually help with that? Because if there were ways where we could provide more resources to 211 Big Bend, that could have almost more of a, I think we're getting to the next item here with the CIE, but if we could have more of a case management focus that allows 211 with the staff and resources to get a call in, and then they follow through, as hard as it is to connect with these people again sometimes, to follow through and make sure that that person did get food from Second Harvest, or did get child services or utility assistance from the city, that type of thing. Is that along the lines of what you're talking about in terms of enhancing the helpline?
Yes, that's part of it, commissioners, because what's critical in that component, though, and and Matt may want to speak a little bit more to this, is the idea of that you want to make sure in communication with those agencies themselves, so a connection between not just the client and 211, but really 211 and that agency in connecting and saying, yes, that person was able to access that resource. How do we do that through that referral process? It's usually easier through the agencies versus the communicating and connecting with the clients. At least that's what I believe. I may be wrong.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, because I just remember from my time at Second Harvest. I mean, we had people that would call us asking for food, and we would look their address up and try to find the food pantries that were nearby to them, give them the hours. But one thing that's always a challenge for us is to make sure that that person went through the whole, got to the food pantry during the time that they were open and got the food. So that's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
So I just had a question about that as I was reading through this. Almost done. How long is, when 211 and the county and the city are talking about enhancing the Lyft service, how long are those contracts? You might sign with Lyft. Is that a year or is it around that time? Okay, good. So Matt just kind of said 1 year, so just folks that didn't see it. I went to the Florida Association of Counties conference a few weeks ago, and there's I won't name the company's name, but this industry is changing very fast. There's one private sector company that works with, I'm looking at 40 different Florida cities that offer free end-to-end service, all electric vehicles, complimentary to the user, to the citizen or the tourist visiting. So I'm not sure how the cost structure works, how do they make their money, but the fact that there are 40 cities that are doing this in Florida means that something is working.
Right.
And so I just want to point that out because this industry is changing so quickly. What might be a great deal with Lyft right now on an arrangement for 1 trip or 3 trips a month, in a year or two might be something that's very cost feasible for some Florida cities, 40 of them that are doing it right now for free to the customer. So I just want to point that out. And then the last thing, as part of the motion, it doesn't have to be part of the motion, but I'm hoping that that our county staff and 211 Big Bend will also reach out to Star Metro and the Transportation Disadvantage Coordination Board. I'm the county representative for that board, so I can help with that. But they're also doing some things regarding Lyft service and endpoint on demand, using an app on the phone for people that are transportation disadvantaged to basically hire a Lyft or an Uber, provided by Star Metro or provided by Transportation Disadvantage Coordinating Board to actually make that end-to-end connection. So I'm not saying that the two entities have to work together, but they could quite easily coexist, but just be aware of what the other is doing so you can coordinate the efforts. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay, absolutely.
And with that, Madam Chair, I want to thank you. That's the end of my comments, and I'm supporting the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Caban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I direct staff, if that's okay?
But I think we have a motion on the floor. So do you want to supplement the motion?
I'm going to ask for a friendly amendment to the motion,
Right.
but before I would like to ask staff a question, if that's okay.
Okay, absolutely.
No, not the county administrator, Chinkton. So when we're referencing Lyft in this agenda item, you mean like the app that's on smartphones,
Yes.
is that correct? Okay, first off, I want to say I think this is a great initiative, fully intend to support it. I think this is great innovative thinking. My problem with it is these smartphones that we're all up here fortunate to have are $1,000. They're expensive. Additionally, to the cell phone service along with that, for most folks, is $100 a month. So there's a barrier of entry for this program that I think limits folks in certain parts of our community, especially folks, in my district, in Woodville and Fort Braden, that may not be able to afford a smartphone. Though I think this is a great initiative and I'm going to support it. I think this board over time, we need to continue to think ways outside the box so that we can help folks in our community who cannot afford smartphones, who lack access to public transportation. So with that, Commissioner Proctor, I would like to ask for a friendly amendment, if the chair will accept it, to have staff also include a status report on our unincorporated area on basically parts that do not have, what are avenues and access points for public transportation.
Absolutely, and they also give consideration that in some areas, phone services don't work and Wi-Fi and all of that is not available.
Can I just provide clarification, Commissioner? Yes. Everyone's familiar, if you have a phone, the smartphone, about the actual app, but that's not how they make the contact. It's actually calling 211, and they can call that from a landline. And what's happening in the back end, correct me if I'm wrong, 211 team, in that from the back end, they're connecting the Lyft technology process. So the person is calling 211. They're not accessing it through an app. And so that's something I want to make sure that was clear. So it's not actually the phone that they're utilizing. So if that person in Fort Braden, Miccosukee, wherever part of our community, they're picking up their phone, calling 211 and saying, I need a ride, and they're getting a ride.
On point. Well, what if they don't have a landline?
Yeah, it would need to be. So I see. So some form of communication would have to occur. If not a landline, or you're saying do they have a cell phone, or?
My big picture I want us to think about over time is there's no bus avenues, there's no bus routes in Fort Braden, there's no bus routes in Woodville. I know the city has their hands full and they do a great job managing their bus routes and their public infrastructure and public transportation. But over time, I would like us to think of ways, how do we expand that so that folks can have access to grocery stores, doctor's offices, folks that are deep out in the rural areas of our community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent recommendation, which the motion accepts.
You accept
Yes, ma'am.
expansion, access. Okay, if no other comments, yes, Commissioner Matters.
Front staff, first of all, 211 Big Bend, thank you. This is something that's going to be huge. The clarification you made, Shinkton, that folks just have to find a line to call, and 211 Big Bend is going to make it happen for them. That is something that we've needed forever, especially in an unincorporated area. I think the thing we have to understand, Commissioner Caban, I think you make a great point, is the barrier that we have when it comes to the bus routes, just as we did with the Amazon piece when we were talking about extending there, is that the city does run it. And it costs them in order to extend those routes. And when it comes down to it, I think the thing we have to be willing to consider if we really are trying to go down this road is how much county money are we willing to commit to either extension of that bus route through new buses, through new hires that they would have to do for the operations, through new routes, stuff like that. How much money are we willing to consider, or are we willing to consider to create our own, which I totally would be against, create our own fleet of buses to do it. So it's really a thing of, one, this gives us an avenue to get it done for our unincorporated residents, right? But if we really want to go down this road, it's a larger conversation around resources and how much we're willing to commit to making sure that those bus routes that Star Metro has runs out into the unincorporated area and how far it does it run. So, but this, again, I'm saying it again, I'm really, 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 really enjoying this option that we have with Lyft for folks to be able to call 211 Big Bend and be able to get a ride where they need to go. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Commissioner
One
Parker.
point, Madam Chair. I thought I saw a light bulb go off in Shinkton's head when he mentioned get our own bus line and company, and he froze. And I realized that light, he was blinded. And then I jumped in it telepathically, and I realized that our past chairman was thinking about that huge pot of money that the United States Department of Transportation sits on. And maybe, just maybe, there are grant funds that can specifically do exactly what we can do. So we never say never. There may be a bus line to accommodate areas in which they're not being reached now. So I appreciate getting in that triangle with you guys.
Madam Chair, you know how you say something you wish you could take it back? What happened to you?
I got in that triangle of thought. You heard of the Bermuda Triangle, right? I got in that triangle.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Caban, did you want to say something?
Point.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you for the comments. What I'm trying to get us to see is just long term. Commissioner Minor, what he brought up about electric vehicles, maybe smaller in size, but I think over time it's important just to explore options because there are folks in the community that need the help. And to 211 Big Ben, I think this is awesome. I think a lot of people are going to use it. I'm proud to support it. I'm just talking about folks that may not be able to have access to some of the lines of communication to get to where they need to go. Thank you.
I thank you, commissioners, for your comments, and thank you all for this particular item as well in the workshop. And I think it demonstrates and it shows the commitment of the county to the least of these, to our elderly, to our veterans, to our handicapped individuals. So, we're inclusive government, and I will, all minds are clear. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Any opposition? Thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Proctor.
Madam Chair, I move on option 5. One of the things before I say this is that I deplore incestuous thinking, and it is in the form of my affirmative dislike for incestuous thinking that I make this motion to direct staff to prepare an RFP to evaluate the feasibility of a community information exchange, and with the rest of those words as follows. However, I'm inserting that we direct staff, to prepare an RFP to evaluate the feasibility of a community information exchange. And when I say that I deplore incestuous thought, it's that there needs to be an airing out, there needs to be a distancing here. And I think that we not get blocked thought, and that most of all, the constituent members of this exchange or clearinghouse will not be intimidated by the county as the big funder, and that they're not feeling they've got to toe a party line, but we need an independent, something that our staff is not just, and I love our staff. Everybody and I love our staff. But to those who don't know our staff, that we are directors, but many people fear them. And I think that we would perhaps hear a better chance to back up and not get our staff engaged.
Commissioner,
the consultant.
Yeah, let me add though, as we shared an item, 211s and around communities are the ones taking the lead on these. What we're saying is for us to be a partner and a participant in evaluating this. And it's very early in the process, very, very early, because one of the most important thing in looking at a CIE is building buy-in, getting our community members to be able to understand what it means, what it will look like, what it will feel like. I mean, that's critical to go through that process. And once we get through that process, we would bring something back to you. But that lead is being taken by 211 as it has been done in communities all over the nation. And so what we're looking for is direction to work with 211 as well as all the other partners you see here on the screen in taking that that step. But at no point counties or cities are the ones who are implementing these platforms. It's primarily through the 211 system, which makes entirely sense, right? When we talk about what 211 is and the fact that what we're talking about as far as elevating them here in our community in the role that they play in providing access to human services in Tallahassee, Leon County.
That sounded very, very, very impressive. And I mean, to accept that, very, very.
You want to amend your motion, Commissioner Proctor?
No, but I want you also to hear. I mean, and I'm willing. I'm flexible. You know what I mean? You can call me anything you want to, but don't call me late to supper. And it's almost about that time. What I'm saying is that there's so much that we ask staff to do in relation with other. Now, if this is to be molded and shaped in the image and the mind of 211, and that's what we want to do, if that's what we want to do, then so be it. One of the things about AI, artificial intelligence, is the shaping of minds in the image of AI, whatever its parameters, values, and thoughts are. So if that's the will of the board to allow for 211, which may well be already contracted through and with us to lead the charge. I'm simply trying to get something fresh and, anointed and independent of
Right.
the norm. So I'm perfectly open with whatever the board, their desires are.
So you're moving
I-
option 5 then, Commissioner, as written?
I withdraw my motion because my thoughts were
Withdraw.
to get an independent.
I make a motion for option 5, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I will be, if I'm
Commissioner
being
Mattis.
totally transparent. Thank you, Madam Chair. I know 211 can do this work. It's going to do this work very well. It's the only person in town, only company in town or organization in town that's doing it. Commissioner Proctor, we were going to find that out whether we went down the RFP road or not. I wasn't sure where you were going. I seconded it before you went there, but I was going to go with you. I was definitely going to go
Good
with
man.
you.
Good man.
But I'm comfortable with 211 and what they do, and I'm looking forward to this feasibility coming back and seeing how much we can expand upon it. And I like too the fact that you got City, CSC, UPHS, United Way to Big Bend, and other stakeholders, which means it's going to be everybody included. This is something that's a long time coming. I think it's
That's how they do in other communities.
yes, sir. I think it's actually 211 taking another step towards being the communication hub when it comes to human services for our community. So thank you on both of these items on stepping up and really expanding and thinking through what the next phase is of 211 Big Bend. And I appreciate the direction in which you're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Any other comments? Commissioner Minor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was also very excited to hear this item here. Way back in the day, in the 90s, I used to be a computer programmer and computer development manager. And it was forever ago. I think you were elected the county commissioner around that time. 1996, I think, or whatever. But so anyway, so I have an appreciation for this.
You have to bring that up.
That's all, man. That's an honor. It's a badge of honor. But I appreciate what this could do, and I also appreciate the amount of work involved too. I mean, to do it right and to really maximize the effectiveness of it, it take a lot of work. Fortunately, I mean, we're not the only community with this potential ability to be the communication hub using a data set like this, right? So we can learn from what other communities have done, but this is really exciting. If other agencies can also use it, which is the point,
That's
right?
the point, yep.
At Second Harvest, we would have people call us asking for food, but almost every single person that was hungry also had other needs as well.
Right.
And yet it was extra work for us to try to connect Second Harvest clients with other agencies. If we have this,
Exactly.
that cuts through a lot of that overhead and increases a lot of that effectiveness, so that when someone calls Second Harvest asking for food, we have a history of what else they need and how we can make sure that they get those other resources, housing, utility assistance, drug dependency, I mean, those types of things, right?
Yeah.
So this could be a really big improvement, a really big deal in how we help people that are in need in this county. So thumbs up. Thank you for working on it. Looking forward to seeing the report when it comes to us.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner?
Madam Chair, to the point that Commissioner Minor just made, when I talked about my desire for independent consultant study, and here in my notes, I got this could help to keep up with the number of contacts, services, et cetera, exactly what you just said. As a tally, because you mentioned that you can only take Lyft one time a month, and I'm thinking, well, who's keeping the tally? I mean, who's operating? So those were the thoughts which I believe, and I wrote it down, but didn't say it. And those were exactly my thoughts of keeping a tabulation of services and cross-referencing the needs but that's for another day, I guess. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Any other comments on the CIE? And I think it could clearly be a game changer. So I'm
Yes.
looking forward to the results of that study as well. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposition? Thank you. So aye. is adopted. Mr. County Administrator, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commission, for the good direction that we got today. Look forward to being back in January. But Commissioner Proctor asked me to make a very important announcement, so I'll need to do that. In case you were wondering why Alan Rosenzweig looks so relaxed, disturbingly so, today, it's because after 23 years of commission meetings, and while that last motion was occurring, I did some quick math, that's about 552 commission meetings. That's 3,312 hours roughly. But if you translate those hours into feels like hours, that's about 10,000 hours minimum, which according to Malcolm Gladwell would be he's just now prepared to actually be in a commission meeting and to be effective at doing so. So wanted to recognize his very last meeting. And Commission, I don't know if you know this or not, but technically, because he's still a county employee, whatever motions you make now, he continues to be bound by. So I would recommend, among the motions that you may consider before we break up, is the, and the county attorney told me we don't have to advertise this or anything as a item that would be before you, that Alan not be permitted to come back during the budget season to speak as a citizen on any issues related to the county budget.
I second that.
Alan recently moved to District 5, and as my constituent, I can't let you do that.
She just, and again, the county attorney just said that the First Amendment does not apply to no, she was. And we're going to have a lot more fun with Alan coming up. But
When is the
Commissioner
roast?
Proctor,
When is the roast, Vince?
it's coming. It's coming soon. If you think that was bad, it's coming. So, Madam Chairman, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I just want to congratulate.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate Alan on this last meeting. I affectionately refer to him and Vince as Peaky in the brain. You guys can figure out which one's the brain. But Alan, you have been extraordinary for this organization since I've been here, and as Commissioner Proctor said, he hadn't been to a meeting that you hadn't been there. You deserve the opportunity to be able to enjoy some time with your family and away from here. Thank your family for dedicating or loaning you to us for so many years. And, you know, it's moments like this when you think about, you know, who's the next up in line. There's few people in organizations that you never can replace. You can't replace an Alan Rosenzweig. It's just somebody else will step up, but what he brings to the table, what he's brought to the table in the partnership, the Batman and Robin, or whatever you want to call it, that him and Vince have, you can't replicate that. You can't replicate that. And the thing about it is it happened even before they were in position to run the county. And it was that way when PA was here. You didn't see one without the other. So for me, it's going to be confusing to see Vince around here, especially with this new beard. I don't know what's going on with that. But it looks nice though, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It's going to be confusing for me to see Vince here and know that Alan's not behind. I don't know if I've done a briefing without him there. I mean, it's just, and him ripping his little paper and stuff, but you deserve the opportunity to enjoy this time with your family, but if I can keep you here another 15 years or far after I'm gone, for people to be able to experience what it's like to be around an Alan Rosenzweig as a assistant county administrator, I think I would do that. I think I'll make the motion for him to stay that long for people to have that experience, but congratulations, and look forward to seeing what the rest of your life looks like. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you. Now putting together this is the actual last meeting that should have been in the agenda, but I can't go without saying I've only been here a year, and excluding all the people in the room, Alan is my favorite person in leadership here, and I don't know if it's because he's also an accountant, but I will just briefly say that our county administrator well-deservedly gets all the awards for county administrator of the universe. And I think he'll agree with me. I just want to say that I don't think that would happen without Alan. Thank you. And thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. Is there anybody else? Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alan, I just wanted to thank you for all the time I've gotten to know you. I mean, I've been on the board for 5 years, and we've worked closely together since then. And the thing about the two of you, both you and Vince, is that you're both like a really tight team, but very different personalities, at least from my perspective. So Vince will basically smooth talk on what the goal is, right? You're just like direct and tell it as it is. And so the two of you together were perfect, the yin and the yang. I've always appreciated that. And I thought the two of you were just terrific in helping to run this county government. I don't know how it's going to work now. Obviously it's going to be different, and it'll, and things will go fine, but I'm going to have to adjust to get to changing between the two of you together in these briefings that we've had, and the interaction that you two have. It really made a big difference, and so we're going to miss you, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Anybody else? Oh, Commissioner Caban.
Alan, I just want to say, send us a postcard.
Send us a postcard.
No, I wish I had more time to serve with you and work with you. It's been a pleasure. I know that our paths will be crossing, I'm sure, when I see you on your walks, downtown, or hopefully we can get a monthly lunch on the books so I can find out, where all the bodies are buried. So I know you know. But seriously, enjoy time with your family, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban. Commissioner Welch.
Oh, sorry. Alan, you know how I feel about brevity. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor.
Alan, man, so many thoughts, so many words. I know we're going to get another chance at this album. I look down there and never seen Alan, and oftentimes when Vince is talking, I have learned to look directly at Alan. And when I look at Alan, I'll know if Vince is on track or not, because Alan is going and just write something down and tell Vince, no. So Vince, I've never revealed that to you before, but when I was not sure, in doubt, I always watch Alan when you're performing, because I thought that he would cue something as to whether or not you were on it. This has been a fantastic organization, the outgrowth of leaders who have emerged. You're looking at this room, how and where many started from, have elevated over time. I think that the class of that Parwes alum has taught, trained, and allowed to find wings. Their talents have wrought well and have brought much to fruition for our county. And I would just say that as the adoptive son of great-minded County Administrator Parwes alum, he did not fail in designating the top of the class, Vince and Alan, to be successors and administrators in waiting, if you will. Thank you so much for what you've done, Alan, and God knows, man, we're going to miss you significantly. But thank you to all of you who have been cued in and queued up and lifted up by Alan, his words, and hopefully you will take all that he's rendered to a new level. So thanks a lot. Vince, don't worry about it. District 1 Commissioner has your back. I'm willing to guide and tell you exactly what we need to do going forward. So I got you. Don't panic. All right. Thank you. But I don't do public math. Alan does.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. And I'd just like to say as well, Alan, you are, when I became a commissioner, you, of course, were one of the nicest people that I met on staff. And in addition to that, you're one of the most knowledgeable that I have on that we have on staff. So a couple of times the county administrator wasn't available, was out. Spoke to Alan. He answers very intelligently, knowledgeable, and I just have always appreciated your service to the county and your knowledge about the issues, the ordinances. He just has the history, the whole 9 yards. And I don't know, Mr. County Administrator, if you hadn't been selected as the administrator of the year of the universe. We might have ousted you and voted Alan in as our county as our county administrator. But Madam Attorney, if this is in order, I'd like to entertain a motion for a resolution of a proclamation. I'm sorry. We already got one?
Let's do it now.
Oh, it's already taken care of. Okay, I'm sorry. So it's already taken care of. But congratulations. We will miss you. Enjoy your time. You deserve it. So thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Okay, Commissioner Caban.
Alan, can we get a speech?
But congratulations, very well deserved. Thank you all, staff, Ms. Hunter, Mr. Lamy, your entire staff for this workshop. We want to thank our county attorney for always giving us sound legal advice. Thank our county administrator. And just for a robust discussion on the issues before us, I thank everybody's cooperation. I believe we've done a great job, and we're looking forward to agenda items coming back next year, Mr. County Administrator. If nothing further, thank you all, staff that are here, visitors that are here. We appreciate your input as well. So thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Stay warm.